Welcome to The Legal Truth, the podcast created to provide you general legal information about South Carolina law, lawyers, and the legal process. We will answer many of the questions I've been asked during the past 35 years about South Carolina personal injury claims and workers' compensation claims. My name is Dirk J. I'm the founder of the Derrick Law Firm, and I'm your host.
Please see required ethics disclaimers in show notes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Legal Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Pearl, and I'm here with my co-host, Dirk J. And today we are discussing the truth about what we've learned from 10,000 focus group participants. Thanks so much for being here with me today, Dirk.
Thank you for being here. That's 10,000 people who have come through our focus group service. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to see what 10,000 people think about the parties and the issues and the facts and the damages that we see every day.
So when you began focus grouping individual cases, how did that change your approach?
Well, before that, we always did big cases. We'd focus group it, go hire a videographer, go rent some rooms at a convention center, spend $30,000, $40,000, bring people in, videotape them, and got good information. Built this office in Conway and got it finished in 2018, put a courtroom in it so we could give that service to more of our clients. And what led to it is I got tired of our clients saying, should I settle my case? Is that a fair offer? And the truth is we didn't know what the value of cases were. I think we were in what I call the insurance matrix, where we were evaluating cases based upon what insurance companies would voluntarily pay versus what the real value of the case was. And insurance companies had the leverage on us and our clients, the leverage of time. They could drag it out. The longer they could drag it out, the less money a client would take because they just get tired of it, get worn down. They had the leverage of money. They would spend money and hold the money away from the client. And they had the leverage of uncertainty. You never know what a jury's going to do. And I just got tired of them having leverage on me. When I used to compete in athletics, it's somebody having leverage on you of size or speed, it's not a fun place to be in. And I hated it that the insurance company was holding leverage on top of my clients. And so I wanted to start finding out what the real value of cases were. So I wanted to start focus grouping cases, doing mock juries, doing jury research to find out what the community thought the value of different kinds of cases were. That's our system change. Our system was if the case involves permanency, or permanent injury, or punitive damages, if they don't pay us all the money, we're going to focus it and see what people say.
Absolutely. So walk me through a focus group night. How does it work? How are the cases presented?
People sign up to serve on our focus group. Right now, I think we've had 20,000 people sign up. They give us 107 data points. They tell us about their demographics, their life experience, and their beliefs about everything to do with the civil justice system. Once they fill out that questionnaire, they go on a list, and depending on what county they're in, or what we need at a particular time, when we have a need for that county, we'll reach out to them and say, hey, can you serve on this night or on this day? We started off doing 12 jurors, and now we've expanded it where we do 12 jurors in-house, and if the case is big enough, we may send it to 100 people sitting at home to get their opinions also. So we get the data from the potential participants. They will hear a case. We'll have an attorney present both sides of a case. When the case is presented to them, they would then give us their individual opinions about how they would decide the case if they were a jury of one. And then we divide the live people up into two juries, and they deliberate and try to reach a unanimous decision. And then after they've reached a decision, we talk to them about what additional evidence they'd like to see or why they decided the way they decided, just to get as much information as we can from them, from the eyes of the community, from the eyes of potential jurors, how they saw the case, not how we as attorneys saw the case.
What are some common gaps that jurors point out in a case presentation?
Well, without giving away too many of our secrets, we have, the Appraisers podcast where we share some information with plaintiffs' lawyers, but we don't tell the world everything we've learned because we don't want the other side to learn from us.
Right.
But I would say some 30,000 feet things is that jurors want to see. They don't want to hear stuff. They want to see stuff. They want to see everything. We changed the way we investigate cases now, where we'll send a private investigator out to get a video from the viewpoint of everybody involved in the wreck, or pictures at the same time of day, videos at the same time of day, because the jury want to be able to go back and put themselves in the place of the parties. So that's important. They want to see imaging. They want to see everything. That was a gap that they pointed out. They don't want lawyers to tell them what to conclude. They want to make their own conclusions. Other thing, gaps they pointed out is in every case there's evidence. They've kind of told us who they want to hear that evidence from. We were probably guilty of letting the plaintiff give them evidence in the past that we've now learned needs to come from a third party. The evidence as far as what happened needs to come from the defendant and independent witnesses. The evidence as to injuries and damages need to come from doctors. Evidence of life change need to come from independent witnesses and co-employees and supervisors and people who don't have a dog in the fight. So we've learned who they want to hear the evidence from. We know what they want to hear. We got 10,000 people who've told us what they want to hear on particular kinds of cases. We're no longer building the case like we think it should be built. We're building it based on what they've told us they value. So build the case like they tell us to, present the evidence from the people they want to hear it from. And then we also know what presentation models they respond to and who responds to certain kinds of presentation models. We'll test presentation models with them and know what works and what doesn't work.
So I know that you mentioned having doctors as witnesses can be really important. What are some other types of information that can kind of help jurors find clarity in a focus group?
I think clarity comes from the total package of evidence. Like I said, they want to see everything. What we do now is a lot of times we do a pre-litigation focus group. Pre-litigation, you don't have all the evidence, but you're seeking their opinions of everything they want to see. If I'm doing a pre-litigation focus group, I'm not going to put a whole lot of value on what they think the case is worth, because if they come back and say, I made a decision on what you show me, but if I'm on a real jury, I want to see A, B, C, and D, well, then we hadn't given them everything they need to evaluate the case. That tells the lawyers, let's go out and get A, B, C, and D, and let's refocus it once we have that. Before I start relying on the value, I want to hear the focus group say, I don't think there's anything else you can show me. I can't think of other evidence that you can show me that's admissible. And then I know, okay, we've given them what they want. We can start relying on what they're telling us the value and the validity of the claim is.
So what you're saying is that it can be different depending on the case, and that it can kind of help guide jurors as time goes on with different focus groups.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So once you do collect all of that evidence and you present it to different focus groups, what do you do now that you have a range of numbers from the different focus groups?
We show our clients. And most often we show the other side too. There's cases where there's going to be ranges. There's cases where it's tight. We focus group a case last night. One jury came back at $150,000 and one came back at $150,500. I mean, that's pretty dang tight. Yeah. And there's cases where what they're trying to evaluate is not set in stone. It's a non-economic damage or pain and suffering or a life change where people just have different opinions. It's not just medical record bills, and it's not economic damages, it's non-economic. So there's going to be a big range. And you do what you do with any data. You say, okay, what's the mean number? What's the median? What's the average? What's the highs? What's the lows? Let's look at the bell curve. Let's see the ranges this would fall in. I have 12 jurors that tell me a case is worth $10 million. I'm not going to tell my client, we go to court, we don't get $10 million. I want a range. I want to see what their individual opinions were before they deliberated, what their individual opinions are after they deliberated, what the groups came up with. And if it's big enough, if it's a $10 million case, I'm not going to listen to 12 people. I'm going to listen to 212 people and get more data points. But it's all a range. It's not a specific number.
So do you take all of those numbers, that entire range, and present it to the insurance company, or?
Yeah, most often we do. Yesterday we had a mediation. I show them all the numbers. I show them the chances of winning, the chances of getting verdicts against each of the defendants. What we're trying to find out is the truth in the eyes of the jury. We started doing this thing 7 years ago. Sometimes the insurance company would kick back or the defense lawyer would kick back and say, well, how do we know you're not trying to, bump up these numbers artificially? You got all the people from your church coming to serve on your jury, blah, 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 blah. And now we've done so much and we've shown them so much, they can see that we're being honest about it. We'll show them the presentation and we'll show them the number. We'll show them everything, the transcripts of everything that's happened, because what we're trying to show is the truth in the eyes of the jury, because what every one of our clients want is the real value as fast as possible. Nobody wants to sue anybody. And the truth is, the people we have to sue, they don't want to get sued. I mean, nobody wants to sue, nobody wants to get sued. The problem is the mechanism to determine the validity of the claim and the value of the claim lies at the end of this long litigation process. And now we've tried to take that litigation process and speed it up by showing everyone involved in the case what these people think earlier on to limit the length of a litigation or prevent litigation altogether. But you'll never have certainty. You'll have ranges of values. So we most often share it with everybody.
So how do you use focus groups to think about the value of a specific case without relying on the insurance company's interpretation of how much a case is worth?
Yeah, like I said, before we had focus groups, we were evaluating cases based on what insurance companies would voluntarily pay. There's not enough trials. No one attorney's going to do enough trials to determine his or her presentation models, trying these cases over and over, what's the average verdict he's going to get on this. Because the trials are different. I mean, cases are different. They're like human beings. You got different parties, different issues, different facts. Credibility of the parties are different. The doctors testifying are different. It's different in every case. So there's really nothing you can look at and say, well, Joe Blow down the street got $150,000 for a case just like mine, so my case is worth $150,000. But what we were doing, what a lot of attorneys do, and they still do now, is they look at a service and they look at settlement values. And they see the average, here goes 10 lawyers who've got settlements for this type of injury over the last year, and here goes what they settled for. Well, that's settlement value. That's what an insurance company voluntarily paid. That's not what a jury said the case was worth. And so we're away from that. I don't care what they voluntarily pay. When I go to mediations now, I take my data and I said, here's the value of this case. And here's what we are confident the range that a jury's going to be in. You can either pay us that, or we go get it from a jury, or you can make an offer, and whatever offer you make, I'll show my client, and they can take whatever they want to take. But my client is no longer blind. They now they can make an informed decision based on whether they want that money or they want to go to court and try to get what our data shows the case is worth. So we don't deal in that. I don't look at what anybody settled a case for. I love mediators, but a mediator's not telling me what my case is worth. We now do enough work on the back end and at night that I believe our data is as good as we can do to show our client what people are going to do with the case.
Absolutely. So it kind of gives clients more of an option, and it doesn't leave them beholden to the one number that the insurance company puts out there.
Absolutely not. And I'm going to tell you where clients in the past have really lost. I think our data, one of the benefits I love about it is, A, it shows insurance companies, here goes the value. Insurance companies have a duty to their shareholders. I don't hate insurance companies. I feel sorry for my clients sometimes because how insurance companies act. But they have a legal fiduciary duty to make as much money as they can for their shareholders. I understand that. But if I can show them the real value of the case and that they're going to cost their shareholders money more if they don't settle right now, sometimes they will act the right way because they're all about making
Saving
money for their shareholders.
Making money, yeah.
Make it a monetary thing. So we're going to show you how to save money by paying us the real value now instead of paying a defense lawyer for another year and then go get a court date and then we get a decision and this is what the jury's going to give us. We take these numbers and we can show the insurance company's job is to make money for their shareholders. Mm-hmm. And that's what they don't do. I don't hate them. That's their job. That's where their legal duties lie. But if I can show them, here's the value of the case, and if you don't settle now and push it for another year and you pay these additional costs and these additional fees, you're actually going to cost your shareholders money. Now they have a financial incentive to settle with me. So I like that. That works. For my clients, where they've lost money in the past is somebody offers them $500,000. And in the past, they would have said, is that a good offer? And $500,000 can help them a lot right now. They're going through a lot of stuff. In the past, they would say, Dirk, is that a good offer? Well, I mean, it's $500,000, but, you never know what a jury's going to do. And we now focus it, and that case is worth $900,000. So now I can show a client that, and it empowers the plaintiff to drive on, to say no, because they have data to support their decision to say no. And where plaintiffs have lost money, and where plaintiffs' lawyers have lost money, where I lost money, I'll speak just for me, is when the high six-figure cases, the seven-figure cases, and eight-figure cases, we lose money because when they start offering real money, we get scared. And to be able to show your client, he goes 200 people who say, here's the value of the case, and it's 100% higher than what they're offering you, your client get empowered to let you go get the money. That type of case is where our clients have really succeeded by having the data. I'll tell you this. 2018, when we were in the insurance matrix, if you look at all the cases we handle, big, small, everything, our average case value was $42,000. In 2024, after doing these focus groups, it was $105,000 average case value, and went up 150% because we know what the real value is, and we no longer have to settle for what the insurance companies claim their computers tell them it's worth. And and we say it increased 150%. Well, that's taking care of medical bills. That's taking care of life changes. That's taking care of future medical expenses that they wouldn't otherwise had they settled for 1/3 of the real value of the case. So it has empowered us by empowering our clients to see the real value. And we no longer set expectations for clients. We show them the data, and they can do whatever they want to do. If they want us to move forward, we move forward. If they want to settle, we settle. But we can show them data.
So after listening to 10,000 focus group participants, what surprised you the most?
The biggest surprise I've had in the whole focus group thing is how serious the participants take serving on a focus group. One concern is you pay people money. We pay people $25 an hour to come serve. Will they take it serious? Are they coming to just get a check? That kind of stuff. It's amazing how serious they take it. It's amazing how heated they get around a table deliberating a case. We tell them when they come in to serve that the only way this works, we don't tell them which side we represent. We don't tell them if it's our case or outside attorney's case. We try to put them in the mindset they've just been put on a jury. We tell them that the only way this service adds any value is if they've just been put on a jury and they make the decisions based on the facts and the evidence they hear in the law given to them by the judge tonight, and that they will say and do exactly what they would do if they were over in the Horry County Courthouse or whatever county we're in. And they latch hold to it. And I'm telling you, it has shocked me how serious they take it. And that's why there's value. I mean, if you present it right, where the lawyers who are presenting it they take it serious, where they present the best possible case for the plaintiff, the best possible case for the defendant. Don't tell the jury who we're representing, and we'll get them to tell us afterwards. They grade the lawyers. It's the same lawyer presenting both sides, but they grade the lawyer as a plaintiff's lawyer and as a defense lawyer to make sure the lawyer's putting the same effort in. Then we letting them guess if they think who hired us to do it, plaintiff or defense or a third party. And there's a lot of safeguards in there to make sure the attorneys are doing it good and do a good job on it. But they have taken it serious, and I think that's why it has benefit to us, because they're not just up here wasting time.
So speaking of jurors having very strong emotions when it comes to the focus groups, what kind of information has the ability to change a juror's mind? Or what kind of things have you seen in focus groups that have kind of gotten jurors to shift their perspective?
I don't know about shifting perspective. I'll tell you, we present the case and they give us their individual opinions. And then we divide them into two juries. They deliberate. And then after hearing the arguments of other people, we do post-deliberation opinions from the same jury. So you're acting as a jury of one, and then you break out and go to serve on a jury. And then you come back and say, after hearing everybody's opinion, if you're in a jury room all by yourself, how would you decide the case? There's some change there, but overall, people kind of stick to what they believe in. And I've always believed in confirmation bias. Once you make up your mind, it's really hard to change somebody's mind. It's why the presentation order in a case, we want the jury to hear the evidence the same order they were heard at trial, because that makes a difference. You know, if somebody makes their mind up early, it's harder to change their mind. So I want to make sure the evidence that's coming to them is in the same order they would if they're sitting over in the courtroom. Same flow. We ask them some questions at the end of the night about, let me tell you, there's a piece of evidence we don't know if it's going to come in or not, but would this change your opinion? And we give them that piece of evidence. And they tell us. And sometimes people say yes and how it would change their opinion. But I take it with a grain of salt, because the question is not so much will that change your opinion. The real question is, if I had presented that evidence up at the top of the presentation where it would have come in, how would it change your conclusion? And you can't replicate that by asking them at the end of the night if that would change their opinion.
Right, because a lot of them make their mind up very early.
Human beings make their minds up very early.
So how have you leveraged what you've learned from these focus groups, from perhaps doing a focus group from individual case to where we are today?
Every focus group, we're trying to leverage it some way. If the jury wants additional evidence, we're leveraging it with the lawyers to go find that evidence to bring it back to the jury. If they have all the evidence and they give us a value, we're leveraging it with our clients, showing them what they say, and the opposing party. The cool thing about how this thing's developed is that we started off by just focus grouping cases. And we're putting the data in a database, but we weren't doing anything with it. And then we got to a point where we're doing it so often that we hired a company called Domo, and we put all the data in Domo and had a dashboard where we could go back and look at old stuff and look at cumulative stuff of all the focus groups we've done to get patterns of who make good jurors for particular types of cases, what types of presentations work, and that kind of stuff. Then AI has gotten better. Now we can do a focus group, and in a 48-hour period, our focus group data manager, Nicole, turns around and gives us a 25-page AI report with everything in it, all the summaries, all the data, what people said, what was important, what drove their verdict. I mean, we immediately have access to all the conclusions from that presentation, which has been amazing. That's when we started doing outside attorneys and now we're doing nationwide for attorneys nationwide, and they do focus groups with us. We do 12 people locally, send it to the county that the case is pending in Louisiana and Texas and Maryland and Florida, and we can turn around their data in 48 hours or 72 hours, give them this AI report that tells them everything. This is how to build a stronger case. Here goes what the value of the case is as of the day if you picked a jury off the street, just everything, all the data. And that's created a value to us in-house and to outside attorneys. It's pretty amazing how quick AI allows you to suck out all the knowledge that we knew was in there. The next thing we're doing, which really excites me, and it's what I think about most of my days, is we're hiring we have an AI company who's training large language models on our big data. Everything we've ever decided, every case we've ever presented, every jury that's ever served, so that we can talk to our data set like GPT talks to the internet. So where we can ask it, we can put in pleadings and the evidence of our case. Here goes our evidence, here goes our depositions, here goes our pleadings. Put it into the database and tell them how to build the best case. And it's going to tell us how to build the best case in the eyes of the jury. And then we're going to be able to focus group our case and get a value, and then put that same summary into our database and say, how does this fall within similar cases that we focus group, and have a bell curve where this case falls on a bell curve of similar cases, similar injuries, similar instances. Also, we'll have a jury selection process in it to where we can put in the jury pool information, put in data points on those jurors who are coming into a real jury, compare it to the data points that we've collected with all these focus group participants, and have it pick our juries based on how people with similar demographics, life experiences, and beliefs have decided real cases in our focus group room. And then give us some predictive analytics for the 12 people that we end up with on a jury. And that's what we're working on now. That excites me. Before, we were doing it with machine learning. First, we were doing it just by memory, what we find out about these data. And then we had machine learning where we could filter the information back out. And AI, you just want to be able to talk to it and just instantly get information out. We'll be able to go to a courtroom with preliminary scores on everybody who's coming in. And then as they answer questions in the courtroom, or if an outside attorney, we don't get voir dire in South Carolina, but in another state, I can show that attorney, here goes 15 data points that separated good jurors from bad jurors. Go ask these questions. And they can ask those questions, input the answers into the database, and it will recalculate the scores of that jury pool and tell them who they should strike. And that should be ready end of December, end of January. We'll then start validating the answers every night that we do a focus group. When the validation proves it's 85% or 90% or whatever the number we go with, accurate, then we'll have a product.
This is very exciting. It's all happening very soon. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Dirk, and telling me all the very exciting things that are happening with the focus group service. And thank you so much to all of our listeners for tuning into this episode of the Legal Truth Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the Legal Truth Podcast. If you have questions that you would like answered on a future episode, please send them to thelegaltruth@derricklawfirm.com. If you would like to speak to us directly, call us at 843-248-7486. If you find the podcast valuable, please leave us a 5-star review and share the legal truth with your neighbor, friend, or family member who is seeking reliable information about a South Carolina personal injury or workers' compensation claim. Dirk J. Derrick of the Derrick Law Firm Injury Lawyers is responsible for the production of this podcast, located at 901 North Main Street, Conway, South Carolina. Derrick Law Firm Injury Lawyers has included the information on this podcast as a service to the general public. Use of this podcast and any related materials does not in any manner constitute an attorney-client relationship between Derrick Law Firm Injury Lawyers and the user. While the information on this podcast is about legal issues, it is not intended as legal advice and should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a licensed professional attorney in your particular state. Anyone seeking specific legal advice or assistance should retain an attorney. Any prior results mentioned do not guarantee a similar outcome. The content reflects the personal views and opinions of the participants in the podcast and are not intended as endorsements of any views or products. This podcast could contain inaccuracies. The information contained in this podcast does not constitute legal advice and is not guaranteed to be correct, complete, or up to date as laws continue to change. In this podcast, you will hear information about focus groups. Please note that not all of the firm's cases are presented to a focus group. Additionally, when speaking about juries or jurors in relation to a focus group, we are speaking of focus group participants and not actual trial juries or jurors.